And welcome to the Just Interesting podcast, the show that's not too interesting, not interesting, but just interesting enough.
Very good.
Thank you. Haven't practiced that for weeks. What? Joining me, Alex, today is Robin.
Hello, Alex. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Same old. Yeah, as you can see, we are in the studio.
Yeah.
Got a brick wall behind us.
What do you mean studio? We're outside the brick wall.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Martin, how are you?
I'm good, yeah. Very well. Happy. Which is always good.
Why are you happy?
I'm happy. It's just,
Just a happy man.
it's not raining.
That's true.
Here with you guys.
This must be the first day in weeks it hasn't rained in the UK.
This is true.
It's been
This is
miserable.
Hence happy. Yeah, all good.
I learned a thing this week.
Did you?
I did. I learned a thing. You're like me. You like drinking tea and coffee, right?
Obviously, we're British. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I always worry about it because tea, like with me, stains your teeth a bit. Got caffeine in it. Apparently, tea has more caffeine in it than processed coffee.
It's often said, isn't it?
Yeah, often said. And I always think, I'm just going to give myself a heart attack at some point in life from drinking too much tea. But this week I learned that drinking tea can contribute to lowering cholesterol, contribute to weight loss,
What?
and improves mental awareness.
Really?
Not if you put the amount of sugar and milk.
And
that
I was about to say that I need to know all the qualifiers for
That's
this
going
kind
to be
of thing. It's like
straight black tea from source, like
possibly
organic, yeah.
Or even like Chinese green tea, like
exactly,
the actual leaves floating in it.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Rather than just the tea bag stuff that we use. Yeah. But yeah, that's what I learned.
Interesting.
So you're saying that doesn't necessarily apply to English breakfast tea?
I'm not promising anything to
Does it?
anybody at home who wants to
Does it
try
apply
this.
to PG tips? That's what I want to know.
Well, you've got me excited, and that's taken back down now. So thank you for that, Robin.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Well, I learned about a very, very amazing story that relates to the Titanic. Yes. So
It didn't actually sink.
Didn't actually sink. Yeah. No. It's that a man called Richard Norris Williams. He was a sportsman.
Dick Williams.
Dick Williams.
Known
And
as Dick Willie to his
Dick
friends.
Williams. Stop it, you. And he was a tennis player. Very, 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 very popular, famous, successful tennis player.
The Roger Federer of his time.
Well, I won't go that far. Anyway, he was a successful player, especially in doubles. And he was unfortunately on the Titanic when it sank. And he saw, amongst other things, his father die. He got crushed by something falling. It was a pretty horrible time for him, like it was anyone. And he managed to jump into the water. He was swimming around in the water and managed to grab onto this overturned bit of debris.
With Kate Winslet on it.
With Kate Winslet on it. And Jack, he's like, just help him on. Anyway, and so he was in the water, freezing cold, and there was like 30 people holding onto this bit of debris, and he said that when they got rescued, there was only like 11 of them left. Like the others had just died from the cold, so pretty tragic. So he gets taken aboard this boat and taken to shore, and the doctors say that he would most likely need to have both of his legs amputated, which is pretty horrible
for a tennis player.
For a tennis player, right? And so he's like, no, like I can't have my legs amputated. I prefer to like risk losing my life and to have my legs amputated. Like, can we just hold out on this? Anyway, he makes a miraculous recovery. Goes on to win the Wimbledon mixed doubles.
No way.
Wow.
Or men's doubles, sorry. Goes on to win the Wimbledon men's doubles amongst other tournaments like it was the predecessor to the US Open and other like major tournaments. So he could have had his legs amputated.
There you go.
But in that case, he probably would have won the wheelchair doubles. So
Did they have them back then?
probably not.
That's amazing.
Crazy, right?
Wow. Oh, good on
That's what I learned this week.
Yeah.
And that sounds actually really dark and tragic.
It does sound dark and tragic, but a little bit of a happy ending in terms of being able to be successful
The
regardless.
moral of the story is, don't listen to your doctor.
Yeah. Don't allow him to cut off your legs, no matter the consequences.
Fair enough. Well, I tickled him that. He likes that story.
It's a good one.
Fair enough. Well, I've learnt a story this week. Did you know that Charlie Chaplin narrowly escaped assassination by Japanese terrorists in 1932?
No, I didn't know that.
No.
This is a mad story.
What?
Yeah, so So back in 1932, Charlie Chaplin was touring all over the world, and I think he was invited to Japan by the Prime Minister, who at the time was Tsuyoshi Inukai. Obviously pronounced that terribly. Who was assassinated in this assassination.
Right.
This was as part of another assassination.
Yeah, but Charlie Chaplin was on the list of targets that they wanted to get. So they were like, okay, two for the price of one. While he's visiting, let's get him. So in late March 1932, a naval officer named Kiyoshi Koga learned that Chaplin, on a round-the-world cruise, planned to stop over in Japan and attend a VIP reception at the invitation of the Prime Minister. And they thought that killing a world-famous actor in the presence of so many important political and economic figures might go so far as to cause a break in Japan-US relations. So that was their intention.
Right, okay.
So
were they against the westernization of Japan? Is that what they were about?
I think so. They were reactionary elements of the Imperial Japanese Navy. Yeah. And they were aided by an ultra-nationalist group who called itself the League of Blood.
Wow.
Which is...
It's a very comic book name, isn't it?
Comic book name. Do you think you're the baddies if you're called Blood?
Skull and Bone Society, right? It's like,
And basically, it looked like Charlie Chaplin was actually going to miss this planned visit, so their attack had to be carried out on May 15th, which was a day when security tended to be lax. And it looked like Charlie Chaplin was...
We don't bother on May 15th.
I don't know. We don't bother.
It was just it was just I don't know what was going on that day. But basically, Charlie Chaplin was going to miss that because his boat was running behind schedule, but then the wind was good and he managed to get there just in time. So it looked like he was going to attend this event where he was invited by the Prime Minister. It was like a parliament or something that was going on. And he was invited and said he would attend. But then, just half an hour later, he turned to someone and said, actually, I want to go and see a sumo match.
Maybe like sumo wrestling.
Sumo wrestling. Yeah. So he went to that instead and missed the attack where the Prime Minister was assassinated. And, he missed it.
That's weird.
He narrowly avoided being assassinated.
Very good that he wasn't killed. At the same, I guess the Prime Minister was assassinated.
Prime Minister was, yeah.
It's weird how it's like, okay, number one target, the Prime Minister of our own country. Number two target, Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
So, I mean, surely there's a definite gulf between those two, right?
You think, except as you said, they were trying to break down US-Japanese relations, so kind of perfect timing.
I mean, he's definitely an understudy there, isn't he? To the main event.
It's not like Roosevelt had turned up or something like that, or Hoover at this point, 1932, I suppose. Yeah. That's crazy, and I love that kind of story because it makes you realize or appreciate again, like how life is determined by coincidence and choices. Coincidence in the boat, choices in terms of he chose to go to a sumo match. Because I would have felt really guilty, actually, if I was Charlie Chaplin, be like, I want to go see a sumo match instead. I would have been really guilty and be like, no, I'll go to the ceremony or whatever. See the Prime Minister. It's a bit rude. But actually, afterwards, he's like, I'm glad I was selfish.
Yeah.
I'm alive.
Well, apparently the next day, he visited the Prime Minister's residence to pay his respects. And he, upon leaving, he was said to have made a remark that proved remarkably prophetic. He said, "The security at the Prime Minister's residence seems weak. I suppose there will be another incident." And then 4 years later, while Chaplin was in Hawaii, en route to Japan again for his second visit, rebellious officers, guns blasting, converged on the Prime Minister's residence, causing several fatalities in a second coup d'etat attempt.
Not a good time to be a Japanese Prime Minister. Really,
sounds like it, yeah.
I didn't realise Japanese politics was so turbulent.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much about Japanese politics before the Second World War, but it makes me wonder if the whole declaration of war and the invasion of China at that time was a response to all this going on.
Seems to be a pretty turbulent time, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so that was two instances where he narrowly avoided being assassinated by Japanese terrorists.
That is mad.
Madness.
There you go.
Absolutely mad. Well, I mean, that's weird. And speaking of weird...
Any weird news stories from this week? So I've got a weird news story for you. This actually happened last year, but it's very weird and I'd like to talk about it.
Okay.
So a man who's a conservationist, his name is Masana Izawa. definitely pronounced that wrong again. He's been pooping outside for the last 45 years in order to save nature.
Oh, fertilising the ground.
Exactly, yeah. For the whole of 45 years, he's been pooing outside.
The question is, where's he doing this?
Yeah.
Local park. To stop
I think it's in the... he's got like a forest behind his home.
Imagine that forest floor.
A secluded areas outside
Dog
his home.
walking in there being a nightmare.
In the north of Tokyo, apparently. So he decided to ditch indoor toilets and relieve himself in the secluded areas outside his home north of Tokyo after getting engaged in a brawl to stop a waste treatment plant from being built. He realised that no one was willing to take ownership of their feces and committed to give in to the philosophy based on the circularity of nature.
Wait, is that a philosophy? That's more like an actual scientific thing, isn't it? Ecosystems work that way.
Kind of, but I mean, where does this stop? You start off with that, and then before you know it, we're back in the Middle Ages with everyone chucking their feces out the window.
Oh, come on, Martin. Doesn't have to go
Where
that
does
far.
it stop?
Where does it stop?
Does he dig a hole and poo into the hole, or is it just everywhere? Just spread,
Smeared.
spread around. Does he choose the same spot every time?
Apparently, in the last 50 years, he's only used
Pile.
he's only used a toilet 14 times. He's counted the amount of times he's used a toilet in the
Is that
last
when
50
he's,
years.
like, not at home, I guess?
Yeah,
Yeah,
must be.
If he's visiting a friend's or something,
Yeah.
it'd be a bit weird, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
I need to go. You need to use your loo, because I normally go outside, but you're on the 5th floor.
Someone grabbed him back from the window. Can't do that. Can't do that.
He says that defecating is a responsibility that humans need to be aware of. And he says that he adds, the act of pooping outdoors is a way of giving life back. And he says his actions have yielded results, as only a few days after he covered a makeshift toilet with earth, its contents started teeming with life.
Yeah, with life, like maggots.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, there's something to be said for this, and his intentions are good, but I think he's putting way too much emphasis on the impact this is having.
It sounds a little bit like that, yeah.
Yeah. And
He's
also,
thinking he's saving the planet by doing this, and it's like,
He's not.
you're making a difference, just as people putting their stuff in recycling is making a difference. But don't base your whole life philosophy in not pooping anywhere else just because you think this will save. It just seems a bit kind of OTT for me.
if you're like not doing other things because you're like, well, I poop outside, so
I've got to go home.
Yeah, that doesn't make up for...
it doesn't make up for...
He actually doesn't recycle anything. He poops outside, puts
Along with
everything in the
rubbish, he
landfill.
throws rubbish outside on the
No,
ground.
That's casting aspersions. But he... Yeah.
Where does it stop?
Where does it stop, Martin?
Imagine if everyone did this.
Exactly.
I was about to say, it's fine because they're emphasising, the seclusion of his personal forest. But if everybody does it, there's no privacy.
Yeah.
Also, if everyone does it, a lot of people live in cities.
Yes.
Where does it stop?
Yeah. Where do we go? I don't know. I feel like he probably has some valid arguments in terms of the chemicals they use to treat waste. But surely, I would hope that at this point in time and civilization, we capture that chemical treatment and somehow prevent it from poisoning the environment. He's absolutely right about poo fertilizing plant life. That's a thing. That's why we put cow poo on fields and farms, organic stuff.
Yeah.
But it's not like he's fixing the world by pooing outside.
Imagine being his neighbours.
Oh, there he goes.
Just like clockwork. Quite near me, they sometimes put chicken crap all over the fields, and it's horrendous for miles and miles away.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
This won't smell good. It won't smell good if you're a neighbour. I mean, he says he's remote, but
Yeah.
He's
He's also
being-
assuming that his poo is beneficial, right? I imagine the human diet at this point in life in history, is not very good. So unless he's eating purely organic stuff, which he might be,
remote Japan.
if he's
It's
a
pretty
conservationist.
good diet.
Yeah, I mean, we're assuming this, which I think is a reasonable thing to assume, that his poo is healthy. But it could be. Imagine if he's just having like microwave meals all the time. Like, what's it going to look like? He just has nothing but curries,
Oh no!
processed curries,
Stop.
and you got this bright
Oh,
green
grim.
liquid poo, and it's just sugar and preservatives. It's
Did you
not
think that's where
helping
this would
anything.
go?
I was kind of fascinated to see where it would go, and I have not been disappointed. So, yeah.
Good.
Well, there you go. He's saving the world one poo at a time. It's good on him. Good on him. Maybe we should all step it up a little bit.
My news story doesn't contain poo, but it does contain Jägermeister and Christians. So there's a court ruling in Switzerland this week that suggested that Jägermeister and the logo of the Jägermeister brand does not offend Christians.
Oh
yeah.
Was someone suing them for?
Oh,
come on.
So the Swiss Federal Institute of Intellectual Property, they blocked Jägermeister from expanding its trademark to cosmetics and entertainment brands as well, arguing that the logo, which has a stag on it and a cross above it, could offend the country's Christians.
Right.
Imagine buying cosmetic products from Jägermeister.
Well, yeah, it's true. So the logo itself, which is this one here, the stag with the cross above it.
Oh, right.
This refers to the legend of Saint Humbertus, the apostle of the Ardennes, who is said to have converted to Christianity one Good Friday in the 8th century after witnessing a stag with a crucifix between its antlers. So they've used this symbolism from this particular Christian event, and there were concerns about whether it would actually be offensive to Christians itself. Do you guys think that this is going a little bit too far in terms of trying to stop offence to everyone? I mean, this surely is not offensive, is it? It's a stag with a cross above its head.
I mean, Christians have taken a lot over the centuries. They're pretty used to offence by now. But also, you can buy, like, Happy Jesus merchandise, right?
Yeah.
If that doesn't offend Christians, then a small cross above a stag's head referring to a localised legend is not going to offend anyone.
Surely this... I don't... So this ruling was they can't expand into... cosmetics and entertainment because their logo might offend Christians.
That's what the ruling. Well, the ruling said that wasn't true. That it doesn't offend Christians. But there was a question mark as to whether it was offensive. That was why it was brought up, and then it was basically thrown out.
Right. Okay.
I mean, surely the questionable thing out of all of the things that Jägermeister is involved in is the fact that they make Jägermeister the alcohol.
Yeah.
Yes.
And surely this would have come up
earlier.
much earlier when they first filed their logo for
Do you
trademark
think so?
or something.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's the expansion of it outside of just alcohol. The bit that interests me was at the bottom of the article said, Jägermeister can now use its logo on a wide range of products, including cosmetics, mobile phones, or telecommunication services. It's like, get my Jägermeister for... Yeah, exactly.
I need to know more about how business works. I didn't realise you had to apply for permission to use your logo on other products.
Yeah.
I thought you could just... If you're responsible for that product, you can just stick your logo on it. I'd have assumed.
Yeah, I don't know whether there's certain boundaries or restrictions on certain services. Maybe you have to reapply if you're using it as a telecommunications or cosmetic brand.
I guess maybe it's to do with alcohol. It serves alcohol, so they don't want to... Maybe there's a health thing. Like, they don't encourage people to drink alcohol unless you're actually providing the services. I have no idea. But that's interesting.
Yeah, I guess the other question is, would you be able to sell a Jägermeister branded cosmetic to someone under the age of 18 because it could influence them to then buy Jägermeister?
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
All these things. But anyway, so the fact that this came up in the first place I thought was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah.
But luckily it's been thrown out.
Interesting,
Which is good.
And I didn't realise where that logo came from.
No, that's interesting.
It's the localised
legend of the Ardennes.
Did not know that was their logo until today.
Yeah. So did the person who converted to Christianity then go on and make Jägermeister?
Of course,
that's
exactly what happened, yeah.
And then he invented the Jaeger bomb.
So this week I learned two things. First, there's an online marketplace called onbuy.com. Never heard of it before. Onbuy.com.
Okay.
onbuy.com. Not sponsoring this podcast, sadly. But what I actually learned this week was that they are advertising for an intimate customer service manager.
Intimate. Okay. What's that?
Customer service manager.
It's $38,000 a year.
Okay.
You
Sterling?
Yeah, sterling. Sorry, £38,000 a year. In order to answer the over 500 questions a month that the company receives about sex toys that they sell on their website.
Oh, wow.
So
over 500 questions a month.
Yeah.
They must sell quite a lot then, or have some real issues with these products.
Yeah, there was a quote from the CEO who described the thousands of customers who send in questions. And I was glad they specified that, because in my head I was like, are these 500 questions from the same person?
No.
Right, I'm tempted by this product. I've got so many questions.
So many questions. I was thinking, well, apparently a lot of the questions are to do with how best to use the products that they sell. How best to use the sex toys. And in order to facilitate that, the intimate customer service manager will receive a selection of sex toys each month to familiarise themselves with how they work.
How can that be allowed?
Is this a marketing gimmick? They're like they've kind of
maybe
pronounced this. They've announced this job as being a bizarre and I guess reasonably well paid for what it is.
Yeah.
I'd love to earn that
answering a few questions, right?
Yeah.
Are they trying to just draw attention to their brand?
Maybe.
Am I being a cynic?
That's what I kind of thought
It's
of.
possible it could be a stunt. Yeah.
OnBuy. Yeah.
OnBuy.com. Well, just so you know, if you're interested in applying, the individual must have experience with sex-related products and possess excellent customer service skills. But otherwise, no qualifications needed.
There we go.
There you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What's the point in going to uni when you don't need experience for
You've
these
got quite
kind of
good customer service skills, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Am I applying? They're like, what's this best used for? Giving neck massages. Just really mundane
innocent explanations for
stirring tea.
Stirring tea.
You could wear this one around your neck. Every month you have to familiarise yourself with a few different sex toys.
There are too many.
There are so many.
Single month.
Also, like there are some which are fairly gender specific. So,
That's true.
when
Actually,
people
yeah,
are asking
good point.
for advice, I'm like,
Good point. Yeah.
how do you?
You can't discriminate this job on gender.
But you're gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Good point. Very
Well,
good.
Imagine like recommending a product, like someone said, "Oh, I'm tempted by this product. What would you say it's a good idea?" And you really don't think it's a good idea. How would you then recommend
how would you go about it? Yeah.
Just like, this is a very specialised product. Read between the lines.
In a very
don't buy this
severe
product.
voice.
Yeah.
Specialised. Yeah.
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 No,
Cool.
I shan't be
Yeah.
applying, but interesting to know.
Forward me the details.
If any of you are tempted by this job or considering applying, please let us know.
Please contact me on Unbar.
And let me know your thoughts. Yeah, but seriously, get in touch with us on Twitter. Your thoughts on vote for the weirdest news story this week
There's only one winner.
on Twitter. I'm at alltimerobin.
At all time, Martin.
At Alex Brown ATC.
Boom.
Super.
Or contact our Just Interesting Twitter page,
Oh, yes.
which is at JInterestingYT.
Yes. And while we're doing shout outs, let's do a shout out quickly to our Patreon and specifically our Patreon supporters.
Yes, thank
who
you
have
so
been
much.
who continue to be incredibly generous. If you want to join up to our Patreon and get exclusive behind the scenes stuff, extra episodes, we're doing one after this one, aren't we?
Yes.
We are indeed.
Which is good.
We are.
And so you just follow the link in the description below and join us there. Cool. Right. What is our topic of the week?
This week's question of the week that we wanted to discuss is: should billionaires exist?
Oh.
It's a hot question. That's a hot topic that's going around the US and the UK at the moment. Obviously, Bernie Sanders in the election is
Yeah.
a strong proponent of taxing the billionaires out of existence.
Yes.
But I wanted to ask you guys today: do they have a place? Should they exist, or is having £1 billion or dollars just far too much wealth for one individual, too much power for one individual to have? What do you guys think?
The easy answer is yes. Right. The easy answer is yes, because you can't trust an individual to do the right thing with that wealth, and often it's not necessarily made out of legitimate or, I mean, morals are a tough word to say because it's such a variable thing, but it's usually made out of what most people would consider immoral or less than moral means. Tends to be the case. How people obtain that amount of money tends to be the case. If you look across the board at most billionaires, tends to be the case.
So when you say yes, you mean they shouldn't
They
exist.
shouldn't exist.
Right, yeah.
At the same time, there's definitely an argument for if you tax billionaires and that money is then in the government's hands, is the government going to do any better than an individual who has the same amount of autonomy to decide what they do with their money? That's a kind of counter. And in a lot of cases, it depends what government you're talking about.
And
But a
how
lot
much they listen to the billionaires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But a lot of governments will not use those resources, that money that they've taxed, in meaningful ways regardless. So what's kind of the difference between having individuals who are private entities or the government, other than the fact that the government supposedly should do the right things for their people, which they don't often do?
I think the riposte to that is that a government at least has the moral authority of having been, in most cases, democratically elected by the population.
This is
so
true.
the government, even if they make what we would consider objectively poor decisions or irresponsible decisions or inefficient decisions, at least have the moral high ground, in theory, that they are representing the population at large.
Yeah.
And whereas individuals, even if they're noble individuals who have the best intentions, like billionaires that I'm sure we're about to talk about, like Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett, even if they have the resources and the money and the desire to spend those things wisely and responsibly, ultimately their own self-interest is what determines how that money is spent.
100%. It's a risk. It's a risk, right?
Yeah.
It's a huge risk to have people with such.
But the riposte to that,
Oh my gosh.
and this is why it's a good question. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
Is that we have built a capitalist society, and these people have, earned their money. Is their argument? They've earned it, and they have built up their, wealth empires. And why would you limit the potential that people? You're limiting what people can do. If you're going to tax them out of existence, why should there be an upper ceiling that someone can achieve, and then and that's it, you've won. Well done.
Yeah.
No more.
Is this not the heart of the problem, though? That in our society, at the very least, I mean, the people and society itself hasn't really ever clearly defined terms such as earn and salary and desserts and things like that. You say their argument is, we've earned this. And like, I mean, technically you have. Your earnings amount to X billion dollars or pounds a year. But when someone says, I've earned this ice cream today, as a little treat to myself, that's completely different to, I earned those $1 billion, because you can't ever convince me that a businessman making admittedly important decisions from a desk or on the phone whilst he's in Hawaii on holiday is ever earning $1 billion as opposed to a nurse on a psychiatric ward earning or being paid £24,000 a year for looking after people and actually saving lives in a material sense.
And this definitely fits in with the UK's recent bans that they put on people being skilled and unskilled workers in relation to the immigration policy. So for those of you who don't know, the UK has basically said that people who are below, was it £25,000 or who are deemed unskilled, so people in either manual labour jobs or care work jobs, aren't going to be given visas to enter the UK unless under like special circumstances. This kind of fits in of what is skilled and what isn't skilled, whether you've earned something or whether just those values are just worth less. Those skills
which is
worth less.
There was a tweet, I retweeted it the other day actually, or last week in fact. There's a priest. He used to be in the Communards. He said he's got like 4 PhDs or 4 degrees, a PhD, and he's a priest. And what else did he say?
I follow him on Twitter.
He was on MasterChef as well.
He was on MasterChef. That was all a joke. But he's unskilled because he earns less than the £25,800 threshold that they've established. And it's because you just expressed it as the government is saying you either earn this much or unskilled, you don't count. But you're saying people who earn less than that are by implication the same as people who are unskilled, right? That's their implication.
Exactly.
So everyone in the UK who earns below the average salary, which is I think 26,000 a year.
Is that right?
And the average salary we know is dragged up by people earning a lot more than that.
Yeah.
So the actual the median salary is a lot lower than 26,000, I think.
Yeah.
But all those people are unskilled by the government's own definition.
Which is bizarre. But then taking you back to the original point of whether billionaires should exist, then you're saying, okay, well, are these people, are they skilled? Are they £1 billion worth skilled based on their net value?
Yeah.
And obviously, like you say, it's very hard to justify.
Are they working 1,000 times harder than any of their
more
employees?
Yeah.
No way. No way. But you'll never convince me of that.
Yeah.
That's true. But I mean, they took a risk. They started, in many cases, these companies. They are, job creators. They have thousands of people working for them that they provide a living for.
Yeah.
I know you don't like this argument.
I don't like it.
But this is what these are the arguments we need to unpack, right?
I hate. May I interject?
Please.
I hate that argument saying, they took a risk, because the same logic means I take a risk when I cross the road. If I get run over, I deserved to get run over because I took the risk and the risk didn't pay off. That's stupid logic. I hate it. I hate it so much. He took a risk. He deserves to be a millionaire or a billionaire.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you got lucky. You got lucky. Every day I wake up and count myself lucky because I didn't die in my sleep. Didn't mean I deserved to die if I had sudden death syndrome. What the hell? Come on.
Yeah.
Case closed.
So looking at the system of hypothetically making sure that there aren't billionaires, if this was someone like Bernie Sanders wanting to make sure there aren't billionaires, that's surely not possible, right? In the society we currently live in, whenever there's taxation on people who are super mega rich, of course we know this. When you look at any big corporation, they find ways out of being taxed. So do individuals that go to the Cayman Islands or wherever else, right, to avoid these kind of tax. How can you actually prevent them from being billionaires if this was something you wanted to do? And I think that somewhat makes the question redundant, because you could say, oh, well, I don't think it's right that there are, or it relies on people having a personal idea of a personal morality, of a billionaire having a personal morality to make sure that they are helping either with world hunger or climate change or certain alleviating certain diseases. It relies on people being inherently good, in inverted commas for people listening. But you can't. There's no way that you can actually prevent people becoming super rich in the current system we live in.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know the ins and outs of how people move money and stuff, but yeah, I mean, there's the whole argument as well. Like, technically, these billionaires are worth this amount of money, but they don't actually have that amount of money in cash, or it's all tied up in their companies.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's like ways that they can move that about to pay as little as possible. I mean, they've got like fleets of accountants, right, to make sure they pay as little as possible. So
A fleet of accountants.
A fleet of them. I don't really know how it would work, but I mean, assuming it worked, assuming Bernie came in with a foolproof plan and taxed them all out of existence, and all that money went to the government, would that be a good system to have? Do you think?
Well, as I said earlier, can you trust the government to do well with that money? And a lot of people, libertarians especially, would say no. Like, that's the worst thing you could do, would be to concentrate power in financial power in the hands of those who already have political power. It's just a real concentration of power. Then we get back onto that argument of okay, well, they've been democratically elected, like you said, Robin. But it's impossible to know what to do.
Time and again, though, it has been illustrated that taxation is the most efficient form of redistribution of wealth. And it doesn't even have to be that severe. So there's a statistic I saw the other day, which was an American earning an average of $50,000 a year. About $4 a month in taxes will go to Social Security, which is healthcare or health insurance, and unemployment support and stuff like that. Something like $36 a month goes to corporate tax subsidies.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, when you look at it like that, it shows that in terms of offering support to the poorest people, the most vulnerable people in society, tax is by far the most efficient way to do it, because the government has resources and an infrastructure that means you don't need high costs to run it. That's the theory anyway, but time and again it's been proven. Happens here. The NHS is actually per capita incredibly efficient.
Yes.
Even though there's loads of waste, as we know, in the NHS in terms of purchasing drugs at higher than necessary prices, in terms of providing treatments they shouldn't necessarily provide.
Yeah.
And in terms of having too many managers as well.
The issue being that it's often those who are the richest in society that end up not paying that tax, though, right?
That is a problem. Yeah.
And that's where the issue lies, if we're thinking about.
Yeah, definitely. It's also the ultra rich, like the billionaires. You kind of forget how much money £1 billion actually is. Like, that's 1,000 million.
Yes.
There's like if you look at graphs of how long it would take to spend that or something, I can't remember. It's insane. You don't really.
It's how long to count to 1 million versus counting to 1 billion.
That's
one,
yeah.
isn't it? It's like
one of them's like a day, and the other's like
36
30
years or something. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's an insane difference that you don't really comprehend. Like, you could earn more with £1 billion just doing nothing, just living off the interest, than most workers could ever make working full time.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when they say like, oh, I earned this, you literally could do nothing and still be making more money than 99%. And 99%.
Yeah. Not all landlords, actually. My landlord does a lot of work around our place. He doesn't just leave us to rot. But still, it's like it's having money to make more money is quite an easy way to do it.
This is where it starts getting complex, because I agree with you entirely. You shouldn't have a situation where somebody, just by having money, earns money. It's ridiculous. They can, like, $1 billion is more money than any individual needs to survive throughout their entire lifetimes.
Or their children's lifetime.
In fact. But then you get the benefit of that, which is they make their money chiefly by investing, and they invest in companies, which obviously allows people to start companies, which allows people to employ other people, which is where this completely misleading concept of wealth creation comes from. It's a horrible term, I hate it, but I get the thinking behind allowing people to become rich, because then they have the disposable income to invest meaningfully in other businesses, which then allow them to sustain themselves. But any business, especially in our capitalist system, in theory, should be self-sustaining, right? It lives off its profits. That's the theory.
Yes,
right?
I guess the productivity increases if you have... theoretically, the productivity increases if you're trying to please shareholders, right? And if a lot of your profitability relies on shareholders being happy, then you get the right people in to make it more profitable, so the business becomes more successful as a result.
Yeah. And that's okay. Every business should stand on its own 2 feet, is the theory of our economic system, right? And it's survival of the fittest in a certain way, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the ones that don't succeed, that don't judge the market properly, that are poorly managed, disappear. And often we do see companies disappear, and we see big successes, notably the big tech companies in this last decade with Apple and things like that, thrive.
Yeah.
But then people are still investing in them. Shareholders are still clinging on to their shares, and they're still getting dividends from those shares, and they're already millionaires or billionaires. Ordinary people can't afford to buy those shares.
Yeah. Now they can't price out. Yeah.
So this is where I have a problem with the system that we have. It's like, sure, in theory, I'm all for allowing people to get wealth to the point where they are allowing companies to start to exist, because they need that initial capital. Business loans are a thing. But then there's a certain point where the business becomes self-sufficient by our own standards, which is you generate a profit, so you cover your operating costs, and then you have your profit, which you reinvest in theory to expand the business. So why on earth should people still be investing in those businesses
once they get to a certain stage? Interesting point. Yeah.
And the reason is because the people who make the rules make loads of money by investing in businesses. And like, as I just said, like with Apple and Microsoft and those kind of companies, ordinary people, which I think we all consider ourselves to be, can only dream about buying shares in those companies, because the starting price for those shares is so high, you don't have the disposable income to invest.
Yeah. And you spoke briefly about them making the rules as well.
Yeah.
So that's another argument against billionaires and the billionaire class, which is that they can lobby and buy politicians, and basically, if you want to be pessimistic about it, are running the US government at the moment. So, I mean, that's another strong argument against it.
That's a very good point,
Lobbyists. Why are lobbyists a thing? Why is that a thing?
That's democracy, apparently.
Yeah. What do you think about... Because also one of the problem is that this issue on wealth inequality in the Western world and all over the world is becoming increasingly a problem due to automation. Bringing Andrew Yang into this, what do you think of his arguments with the freedom dividend? And also, speaking about lobbyists, his argument against that was, as opposed to getting rid of lobbyists, you give everyone $100.
It was $1,000 a month, wasn't it?
This was in addition, $100 to spend on a political campaign. Anytime there's a political campaign, like in that area, I think, was something like that. So instead of getting rid of lobbyists, it drowns out the lobbyist money.
Right.
So like if you have someone who's not taking lobbyist money, like Bernie Sanders, they would get $100 from
I see.
individual contributors.
Yeah, I mean, it would certainly level out the playing field, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I quite like that.
In terms of what you could do. Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I think it might be a little bit drastic, and I think he's making a point, as opposed to actually putting in any meaningful policy behind it. In terms of what can you do for your $100? It's making a point, isn't it? He's saying the campaign should not just be backed by the super rich and those who can afford it and can buy their way out, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the idea of kind of leveling out the playing field for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've long been in favour of some kind of limitation on campaign funds and donations. Like, just put a cap on donations.
It's more limited in the UK, to be fair.
Yeah, it is
the US
slightly more limited over here. Yeah, the US there are virtually no limitations, aren't there? Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know what the solution is, because in theory the rules are fine. It's anybody who has the resources can lobby and can donate to political campaigns and have influence, such as Bernie Sanders. Which is where I guess Andrew Yang's point, as you just said, is to try to enable more Bernie Sanders type politicians to take root, because ordinary people are the lobbyists in that sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
However, I don't know if it's better. It's like the whole thing about politicians having salaries. In the UK, we introduced it a couple of 100 years ago, and there was a huge outcry because obviously politicians in the UK were all noble born. Lots of money, land, but not to say landlords, I mean landed gentry and lords and things like that. So they all had almost unlimited incomes, so they didn't need a salary. So the introduction of the salary was deliberately enabled to allow ordinary people to become politicians.
Yeah.
Although ordinary people at the time was a slightly different definition.
Of course.
But these days we have a problem where you still have loads and loads of millionaires going into politics, because most of them, politicians we have, are sons of lords.
They are, and they have finance backgrounds, or they've previously been lawyers, or they have other interests that earn them a lot more than their government salary. Because you look at the government salary from a lot of MPs, and a lot of people, MPs they're paid too much for what they do, and that may well be true. But the reality is that most of them can, or most in most circumstances do, earn more doing other things outside of politics.
Exactly.
So
that's part of the problem over here, right? And in the US, I guess. People don't necessarily get into politics for the right reasons, but it's kind of their political career is really a job interview for what they're going to be doing after politics.
Yeah.
Which is
see the PR firm.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
See on a tour, going around and doing tours with
Nick Clegg working for Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good example. Our deputy prime minister works for Facebook.
Yes.
Can't believe that.
Bizarre.
Crazy.
Bizarre.
Former deputy prime minister.
Yeah.
Sorry, should say that.
Yeah. And while we're talking about politics and billionaires, we've got to talk about Mike Bloomberg spending, I think it's $400 million on his campaign to be president at the moment, or to get the Democratic nominee.
I mean, surely that is like the most obtuse, or it's just such an easy example to pick apart, isn't it? It's like a billionaire using all of his money, or a fraction of his money, for the purposes of gaining power.
Yeah.
It's like the founding fathers would be like, the hell? Like, what the hell's happened?
Messed up. Yeah, and I mean, like 400 million, I think he spent on this, and that works out like something like 0.6% of his
net worth.
Yeah. And
which is nothing.
It's a rounding error.
Yeah, that's crazy. Such a small percentage.
So.
Because Trump was all about, when he was campaigning, he was all about, I'm self-funded, I'm taking no contributions, I don't need it.
Doesn't matter.
Actually, they looked into it, like his entire campaign was contributions. Like he didn't spend any of his own money at all.
Yeah.
Or virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Which there might be, there are two possible explanations for that. One is that he's a crook and of course he takes other people's money. Secondly, he might not have that much money. But so it's kind of like, good play Bloomberg, Trump did it, why not? But yeah, it's worrying because just through advertising exposure, and he has unlimited resources compared to all the other candidates, he could win the nomination, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Just by virtue of being rich.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just what America needs right now, is another rich white old guy to buy the election.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that is something that we haven't really brought up, other than we've brought up now, but the issue of it not just being about wealth inequalities and it being unfair, morally unfair, but the absolute power it can bring you in terms of political power. It's just something, it's just insane. You can literally, if you want to, you can just buy the election.
Okay, well...
Or get close to it.
Well, what about when billionaires use it for good?
Yes, let's talk about that.
Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. You've got Jeff Bezos recently in the last couple of weeks saying that he's going to donate $10 billion of his personal wealth to fight climate change. Giving individual people this much power, you could say, also provides the opportunity for them to make drastic contributions to like good causes.
It's true.
It's true. And then, sorry to just steer away from the nobility of those causes, there's even your crazy ones like Elon Musk.
building.
Heck, we might get to Mars sooner than we expected because Elon Musk has the money to do it.
And that's
kind
crazy.
of cool.
And whatever you think of that, the stuff that he's doing at SpaceX is pretty cool.
It is
the
cool.
Cybertruck is pretty cool. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
that's true.
No matter what you think of him as a person or what. Yeah.
It's true that Bill and Melinda Gates, they're leaving $10 million to each of their children out of their. I think it's of course they're giving a lot of money away. So things about what was it, 30 billion or something they have now.
Has it got down that low? I thought
maybe that's wrong. It might be way more. But they're only giving 10 million, I think, to each child only. But that's quite noble that they're not just passing on that money to their future generations. Of course, I imagine that their children will have other business interests.
Yeah.
Maybe around Microsoft, maybe not. But they're not just being funded. It's not just staying within the family. They're giving it to good causes.
But I mean, also, it just shows you how much £1 billion really is.
Gosh,
that their children could live for the rest of their lives quite happily on $10 million, I
Yes.
imagine.
Yeah.
Unless they have crazy spending habits, I think they'd be fine.
It's Warren Buffett, isn't it, who said that he wants to spend 99.9% of his wealth before he dies. He's going to fail because he's pretty old now.
It's wild.
But he was complaining a few years ago. He was saying that an interviewer asked him, how are you doing on that target? And he said, I'm never going to achieve it. And they said, how come? He said, because I earn so much money just by having this money.
Yeah.
And every time I try to do something with the money, like the accountants get involved. And it's just really hard to actually move that money without getting some of it back.
Yeah.
And quite significant amounts, because the government has built in all these tax reliefs and all these things. Just like many billionaires, he was saying, complain about you can't move money without it being taxed. And he says, well, firstly, I don't mind that. And secondly, what they don't tell you is how much, as soon as you start giving it to charity and putting it into other businesses and stuff like that, trying to use it for good, you get so much back from the government because there's all these rebate things.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, to a certain extent, he says, the accountants, you can tell them to avoid it, but there's some of it that just happens automatically. So it's like, there's kind of like it's almost like you've got a cup of tea and you're trying to give it to someone, and every time they take a sip, they pour some back into your other mug. And it's like, no, drink the damn tea.
Yeah. What a crazy situation to be in, right?
Yeah.
It's mad. And especially with red tape with giving to certain charitable organisations, especially when you're giving that much.
Yeah.
It's a process, right? You can't just give it all there and
Walk
then.
into
can you?
Oxfam and
Exactly.
donate $10 billion.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
So, okay, let's wrap this up.
Yes.
What's the conclusion? Should there be billionaires or shouldn't there?
So I'm going to put my socialist cards on the table and say, in a perfect world, either everyone is a billionaire or no one is.
You commie scum.
I'm common scum. But I'm not against billionaires existing, except in an unfair society where there are those who have too much, demonstrably too much, and those who don't have anything. If everybody has everything, or everything they need, then billionaires can exist. That's fine.
Yeah, that's true. There shouldn't be anyone. I mean, I think you can look at those scary stats where it's like how many millions of people are still homeless, living on the streets, and like in extreme poverty in like first world countries. Well, you've got this obscene wealth inequality. That needs to be sorted before we can even have the luxury of having people be billionaires. I guess maybe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So,
What do you
Yeah,
think?
very true. I think there are some great examples of individuals who've done some amazing things, whether that's philanthropy or just someone like Elon Musk doing incredible things, but you can't rely on people to do good with the money that they have. And I think that a lot of the time, the money that they've earned, not always, but a lot of the time, when you become a billionaire, you are exploiting some people around the world in our globalized society, whether that's the company that has the creation of your goods out in a sweatshop, you don't even know about it, or whether it's using components for your manufacturing, which are destroying habitats. You can't necessarily rely on people doing the right thing with their money and how they've created their billions. So, no, they shouldn't exist, but I don't think there's a way in which they can't. And so there has to be a little bit more, I don't know. I think there has to be certainly pressure put on billionaires, if there are billionaires, to do the right thing with their money, or at least have foundations in place so that they can, that there are ways in which they can help others. Because I think that a lot of the time it's very easy to just say, no, we shouldn't have billionaires, but actually if they're going to exist, there needs to be kind of at least a bit of direction in place to ensure that people are doing, at least trying to help the future of the planet.
Fair enough.
And those in need.
One final question. Should we just eat them? Have we tried that? Let's just eat them.
Well, the Queen's a cannibal, right? So
Now that we've sorted that global issue, shall we have a quiz?
Yay!
Oh, yes.
Welcome, gentlemen, to this week's quiz. So, as always, 10 questions, plus a bonus question. General knowledge. Show me your buzzers.
Yeah. My buzzer, Alex, is
What is that?
from the classic 50s version of The Importance of Being Earnest.
Oh,
Very good.
Quality.
Mine's slightly different.
Martin.
Mine's from the 2002, I want to say, or maybe earlier. Weeble Stuff, classic.
Lovely. That's not going to get on our nerves by the end
It
of
won't.
the quiz.
It
I
won't.
love
It
it.
surely won't.
Okay. Are you ready? So, Robin,
Ready
since
as I'll ever be.
well, actually, this isn't going to humiliate you. You've won every single quiz so far. I think you're on 6 wins at the moment.
Goodness.
No, 4.
4.
Oh, is it 4?
Yeah, it's not 6.
Oh, yeah, that's mad.
We haven't even done that many quizzes.
Okay, 4 wins. Martin, I think you've won 3 now because you beat me again last week.
Last
So,
week.
Yeah.
3, yeah.
so you've got everything to play for, and
Yes.
Robin,
You have everything to lose.
everything to lose.
I do.
And with that-
Not that much. Not that much to lose.
With that little bit of pressure added to you, let's
Thank
go
you.
into question 1.
Thank you.
Psychological.
Question 1.
Okay.
Which goddess was the wife of the Roman god Vulcan?
Oh, gosh.
Robin.
What was it, Venus?
It was Venus, yes.
Oh, yes.
Venus and Vulcan.
Venus and Vulcan.
That
Yeah, the
was
song
the-
Venus and Vulcan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm sure
yeah.
one exists.
Okay, so that's 1-0 already to Robin. Right out the gate. Come on,
Bad
Martin.
start.
I'm
Bad
rooting
start.
for you.
God, it's
I know.
lagging so far behind. Oh.
Question 2. The Way I Am is a 2008 autobiography. Martin.
Eminem.
It is Eminem. Correct.
good
job.
knowledge.
By which
No
US
clue.
singer? Yes, it's Eminem.
Is he a singer?
Songwriter,
Rapper.
rapper,
Definitely a rapper. But
Dreamweaver.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah. Author, Dreamweaver, Visionary.
Okay, question 3.
Yeah.
That's 1-1.
One all. Ooh.
Who was the only US president not to live at the White House?
Ooh.
Oh,
No, that's interesting.
that's a very interesting one.
I imagine it'll be early then, right? It's going to be early.
Presumably, yeah.
Will it be when... I'm gonna go for Adams.
John Adams.
Yeah.
It is not John Adams.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I went rogue.
Well, George Washington.
It is George Washington.
Hey.
Wasn't, first one. From then on, they all lived in the White House.
There we go.
Right.
Very
There you
good.
go.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I bet he's bummed he missed out on that. So,
Yeah, that lawn. That manicured lawn.
exactly. Okay, so that's my take from that. So that's 2-1 to Robin.
Yeah.
Question 4. In the animal kingdom, artiodactyls have an even number of what?
Just thinking time. Of course, they have an even number of brains.
An even number of what an
I don't know.
insane...
I don't know.
Toes.
God damn it, Robin.
Right.
It is toes, yes.
Yes.
3-1. Damn.
Artiodactyls, yeah. Okay, question 5.
3-1. Shit.
3-1 to Robin. The medical condition dysphoria is commonly known as what?
Dysphoria.
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 Oh, should I try? It's not.
Are you buzzing?
I am, but it's not.
Do it. Act it out.
Good.
Budger. There you go.
Colour blindness.
It is not colourblindness. Good guess.
What's that called? Any idea?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm the one asking the questions. Stop it.
I don't know what phoria would be
Dysphoria.
referring
I
to.
thought euphoria.
Oh, good point.
Dysphoria.
Euphoria is like being really happy.
You're logicking this.
Is it depression?
It's not depression.
Darn.
Oh,
Bloody stop. Anxiety.
it's anxiety, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, like
There you go.
uneasy.
Dysphoria, anxiety.
That's a
okay.
good one.
You logicked it and then just
Yeah.
kind of missed it
Yeah,
at the
I
end
see.
there.
Yeah.
But well done. Well done,
Well done.
Martin.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
good
So that's,
one.
what's that? Is that
3-2.
2 each?
3-2.
3-2.
3-2. Okay.
Thanks for trying to get me back on track.
Okay. Question 6. Mentha spicata is the Latin name for which garden herb?
Memphis.
Well, what?
Oh,
Mentha spicata.
oh, I should probably not.
Good, got it.
Martin?
Mint.
No. I can't accept it.
Oh.
I was thinking menthus, menthol.
Yeah.
Mint.
Yeah, good one. Spearmint.
It's spearmint.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry. I'm
Martin.
sorry. Spicata, Martin. Spicata. I didn't say mentha.
You said menthus spicata.
He did. Sorry, Martin.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You can have that. Or
No,
both
we
get the point.
can't have that.
Okay.
Spearmint.
I tried.
So that's 4-2 to Robin as we go on to question 7. The Hillary Shield is competed for in rugby union by which 2 countries?
Oh,
Oh no, this
Oh.
is embarrassing.
the Hillary Shield.
The Hillary Shield.
Is it? Oh, goodness me. Is it England and Australia?
That is incorrect.
Hillary Shield.
Is it New Zealand and Australia?
That is also incorrect.
Oh.
Do you want a clue?
Yeah.
Fingers and buzzers.
Okay.
Between the two of you, you might have worked it out.
Oh no, was that me? Okay.
Yeah.
England and New Zealand?
Yeah.
It is
Edmund
incorrect.
did Edmund Hillary, right?
Yeah, he was New Zealander, wasn't
Yeah.
he? Yeah.
There you go. Oh, Martin.
That is an uncommon shield, though.
5-2.
Once every 4 years, and they play each other, roughly.
Did they only play each other in the World Cup?
No, well, they play. They usually play like once every 2 autumn internationals, so maybe every couple of seasons.
I put that in just for you.
You know, bizarre ones in.
Question 8. What are the only 2 planets in our solar system that have no moons?
Oh. Ooh.
No half points as well. I want the correct
Yeah.
combination.
Is it Mercury and Pluto?
That is incorrect.
Ah.
Mercury and Mars.
That is incorrect.
Does Mars have moons? Doesn't, does it?
Mars has
Mars.
moons,
Does it?
doesn't it? There's Neptune.
Venus.
Does Venus?
Venus
Maybe it
is
doesn't have
moons.
moons. I don't know.
Saturn definitely does. Jupiter does.
Okay, I'm going to go with... We'll stick with Mercury.
Okay.
I think that's right.
Not sure why, but it feels right. Mercury and Neptune.
That is incorrect.
Darn.
Mercury and Venus.
Is that your guess?
Yeah.
That is correct.
Oh!
You're right with Mercury, and Venus doesn't have any moons. Which is, you never hear Venus having moons.
Yeah.
It kind of makes sense.
Venus is also the closest planet to Earth. Question 9. So that is, what's that, 5-3? 5-3 to...
Don't know.
I believe that's 5-3 to Robin.
Oh, well, I've still got a chance now.
well,
I
he
thought it
can
was
do
done.
it. Yeah, he can do it.
There's still a chance. Not going to happen. Still a chance.
He'll do it. He'll do it.
Question 9. Mintonet was the original name of which ball game? Mintonet.
How's that
orig-
spelled? M-I, as in mint.
Mint on et. Yeah,
Basketball.
Oh.
that is incorrect.
Oh. Tennis.
That is also incorrect.
Oh.
Badminton.
Incorrect.
Oh, I would have gone for that next.
Yeah. Think of net.
Yeah, that's kind of. Also, badminton is a very English name, like
Yes.
probably named after Lord Badminton, who introduced it from France, where it was Mintonnet. Was what I was thinking. But
You would have been wrong.
thank you.
Net.
Yeah. Is it volleyball?
It is volleyball.
Oh, very good.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Mintonet. I guess
Thank
it's
you for
big
that
in I guess it's Mintonet, isn't it? That's French.
Yeah,
It's big in
sounds
France,
French,
isn't it?
Yeah, probably.
It's a beach game. France has beaches. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
End
That's
of
the guess,
discussion.
isn't it? So very good, very good.
So that's 6-3.
6-3.
So well done.
Done and dusted.
Question 10. You might be able to get another
Yeah,
point
true.
back.
True.
The names of how many US states begin with the letter L? Closest wins, I'll say.
4.
4.
Oh, closest wins.
Yeah.
Damn it. 4 is a really awkward number. 3.
So yeah, it was a bit of a trick. There's only one.
Really?
Oh, right.
Louisiana.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was, yeah.
Now I feel cheated.
That's the only one I think of. I was like, there's got to be more. That's
I thought there was at least 2.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a trick there
Yeah.
through in
Yeah.
there, but
Very clever. Very clever.
there you go. So
Yeah,
that's
cool.
well done. Well
Very
done.
good. Is there a bonus question?
There is a bonus
Yeah,
question.
Let's do it.
Okay. What make and model car was US President John F. Kennedy traveling in when he was assassinated? Robin.
It was a Lincoln, right?
It was a Lincoln. I can't remember the model.
I need the make.
Ford Lincoln.
Yeah, Ford
Oh.
Lincoln.
Right. Oh, okay. Well done.
There you go.
Yeah. Good question.
Well,
Very good.
well done, Robin. Congratulations
Well done.
on your
Very good.
100% success rate.
Excellent.
Goodness.
Quiz.
It's
Good
this competitive
performance,
spirit, isn't it? It's like,
Yeah.
now that there's a leaderboard, it's just revising.
But yeah, no, thanks so much for watching. Well done for making it to this part of the video. And let us know how you did in the quiz in the comments below, or find us on Twitter. Have we plugged our Twitters yet?
We have.
don't know.
We can do it again if you like.
Yeah, I'm at Alex Brown ATC.
At All Time Robin.
At Auto Martin.
There you go. Or find us on the official Just Interesting Twitter at JInterestingYT.
And we look forward to meeting our Patreon supporters on the Patreon exclusive podcast right after this.
Yeah, see you in a
Yes.
couple of minutes. Bye.
Bye-bye.